Welcome to Weather Geeks. I'm Dr. Marshall Shepard from the University of Georgia, and I am joined today by a good friend and colleague of mine, Admiral David Titley, who's a professor at Penn State University. And you also have a center out there, the Center for Solutions for Weather and Climate Risk. Is that what it's called?
Exactly, Marshall, and thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, now we're here today. We're going to be talking about a conversation that I'm sure will have Twitter buzzing. Extreme weather, who's to blame? Now, quiet as kept, you and I both were part of a National Academy of Sciences committee that just produced a report linking extreme weather in some cases to climate change. Who commissioned that report and why?
Well, thanks, Marshall.
Yeah.
This was really an interesting report. There were a whole lot of sponsors for this. It turns out there were a number of foundations. The foundations are actually being approached by people who say, hey, we can look at like a specific weather event and we can attribute it. And the foundations are like, well, is that true or not? I don't know. Let's ask the academies. Sure. Many agencies in the government, the Department of Energy, NOAA, NASA, they were all interested in this. And then the academies themselves. Dr. Ralph Cicerone, as a president, he has a personal interest in what can the science of attribution actually say today.
And, you know, this is a topic that can be a little touchy at times, but the National Academies is a gold standard for evaluation of science. They don't have any sort of perceived biases. They're a very objective organization. You mentioned attribution. Whenever there's a big weather event, we just had some big flooding down in Louisiana. We've had Superstorm or Hurricane Sandy. People say, was it caused by climate change? And we're going to deal with, is that the right question later on. But what do we mean by attribution?
Yeah, well, attribution is really how much of the cause, if you will, can we put on or attribute to either man-made climate change or not, or other factors, or natural factors. So it's really almost, think of the word like accounting. It's similar to accounting. It's how much can we put on. So it's that relative distribution of what caused or what was responsible for a specific event.
And I know we were both marching around Washington, D.C. at the White House and Senate and various places, and there was an analogy you were using with cookies. What does that have to do? I like cookies. Shout out to the Girl Scouts.
I like cookies too. And what I told people, you know, we had, of course, it's a whole bunch of slides and things, and slides are kind of boring. So, you know, if you want to go viral on the internet, how do you do it? Cute cats. I didn't have any cute cats, but we had cookies, almost as good. But the idea was, if you think of the perfect cookie, it's like kind of a very, very specific event, you know, there's a lot of different ways to have different kinds of cookies, but none are really quite perfect. It's overbaked, it's underbaked, it's a different kind of sugar. I forgot the baking soda, all those sorts of things. But lots of things have to come together to get that perfect event. Now, I'm not saying that extreme weather is perfect by any means, especially for those who are involved in it or get caught up in it. But it kind of has the idea that a lot of different things have to come together. And likewise, when you get a cookie that doesn't taste quite right, it's not always obvious. And just like when we try to do this attribution for a specific weather event, sometimes it's obvious, but a lot of times it's not quite obvious exactly which pieces of which events came together to give us that weather event.
Now, there have been many studies, the AMS put stuff out on attribution, but what makes this report different or new?
So a few things, Marshall, make this report really different and new. One, it has the National Academies of Science kind of seal of approval on it. If anybody, and I'm sure a lot of your reviewers, they've either read scientific papers, I'll bet a bunch of written scientific papers. You know, you get a couple reviewers, you talk to the editor, and you're kind of good. We had 12 reviewers. We had more reviewers than we had committee members writing this. So it's kind of the gold standard for reviewing. Another thing that's different is this was really at least the first time in our knowledge that we really stepped back and looked at the entire field, all the way from heat waves, cold events, flooding, drought, wildfires, tropical cyclones. Weather geeks know that that means hurricanes and typhoons, all the way down to individual convective events like tornadoes, hailstorms, and tried to kind of collectively figure out where are we on the science of attribution. So we put that together. And the third thing, we spent a lot of time, as you well know, figuring out what are the right questions to ask. So gold standard, overall look, and then what are the questions we should be asking?
Now, we're going to get into sort of the different types of events because we really rank the ones that we think have high confidence, medium confidence. But before we get to that, probably in the next block, you talk about 3 legs of the stool in terms of our ability to rank these events and their relationship to climate change. What are those, and what's your point with that?
Sure. So what our committee found, what the report states, is that attributions have the highest confidence, we're the most robust, if you will, when we have what I call 3 legs of the stool. And those 3 legs are, do we have physical understanding? And you could sort of take heat. I mean, we know all the way back from Fourier and Arnhus back in the 19th century, we kind of understand what's going on with increased greenhouse gases and heat. A lot of physical understanding. Second, do we have a long-term trusted observational record? So if we start seeing numbers that we simply haven't seen before, can we really say, you know, for 150 or 200 years or whatever, this really is the biggest, as opposed to, well, we're not sure once I get past 30 years or so. And then finally, can we replicate these in the climate models? Can we replicate this event? So if I put all my data into my computer model and then run it for climate, do I see these in there? And those are the 3 legs. So can I see this in the computer model? Do I have physical understanding? Do I really know why? And do I have long-term observations?
And when we come back on Weather Geeks, we're going to actually look at the results and say, which of these extreme events that we're seeing now, how much can we link them to climate change? We'll do that next, but first, our Geek of the Week.
Dr. Philip Mote, director of the Oregon Climate Change Research Institute and professor at Oregon State University, is this week's Geek of the Week. Dr. Mote is a contributing author in the National Academy's report discussed on today's show, and his favorite type of weather is valley fog, which makes sense, right? Since he grew up in California's Central Valley. Congratulations to Dr. Philip Mote, our Geek of the Week.
What makes me a weather geek? That's a great question.
I love the weather. That makes me a weather geek. I'll talk about the weather whether I'm at work or not.
Owning like 5 weather stations at my house, and then I name them. Who does that?
I have a weather station in the backyard so I can check the dew point, which is my favorite weather piece of data.
I am a nerd. I'm nerdy and proud.
Can I go off about dew points?
I'm proud to be a weather geek. Join our exclusive community for fans. Be one of the thousands of weather geeks out there at weloveweather.tv.
The City Double Cash Card comes in very handy with cash back twice. With 1% when you buy and 1% as you pay. With 2 ways to earn on purchases, it makes a lot of other cards seem one-sided.
What took you so long?
Duracell Quantum lasts longer in 99% of devices, so you can power imagination all day long.
This little guy is about to make his first deposit.
We'd like to open up a savings account for him.
Yes.
Great.
Thanks to Mom and Dad and their safe driving bonus check from Allstate.
Oh, look at this. Safe driving bonus. Are you a safe driver?
Lucky little fella.
Only Allstate gives you 2 safe driving bonus checks a year for driving safe. See how much more an Allstate agent can do for you. Call 877-644-3100.
Like in most families, Dad's always the last to know. That's why accident forgiveness was the first thing he asked for when he switched to Allstate.
Michael James?
Middle name. Not good.
Get accident forgiveness from Allstate and keep your rates from going up just because of an accident. Find out how a local Allstate agent can help better protect your family. Call one right now. And if you're a safe driver, you can save up to 45%.
Just a few more ways the good hands are doing more than ever before.
See what the personal service of an Allstate agent can do for you. Call 877-644-3100.
7 days a week, AMHQ is right here and weather ready.
Let me get you ready for the day weather-wise.
AMHQ, every morning starting at 5 on the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 76 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Today, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 80, chance of rain 60%. Tonight, thunderstorms early, low 60. Chance of rain, 60%. Monday, partly cloudy and windy, high 66. Here's our 7-day outlook.
What makes me a weather geek, the fact that I love the weather, especially when it's hit me in the side of the face.
I'm gonna ride this one out, guys.
Be one of the thousands of weather geeks out there at weloveweather.tv.
Pet moments are beautiful, unless you have allergies. Then your eyes may see it differently. Only Flonase is approved to relieve both itchy, watery eyes and congestion. No other nasal allergy spray can say that. When we breathe in allergens, our bodies react by overproducing 6 key inflammatory substances that cause our symptoms. Most allergy pills only control one substance. Flonase controls 6, and 6 is greater than 1. Complete allergy relief or incomplete? Let your eyes decide. Flonase, 6 is greater than 1, changes everything.
No matter where you look, you won't find another small commercial van that can fit more, carry more weight, and yet go farther on a tank of gas than the Ram ProMaster City.
Hurry into your Ram dealer for details on all current incentives.
It's easy to love your laxative when that lax loves your body back. Only Miralax hydrates, eases, and softens to unblock naturally, so you have peace of mind from start to finish. Love your laxative, Miralax.
And we're back with Admiral David Titley, who's the former oceanographer of the Navy right now, a very distinguished naval career now in academia. And they also chaired this recent National Academies study looking at extreme weather. Now, in the last block, we were sort of setting it up. What events can we, and this is one of the big new things about this report, we can sort of say now that there are certain events that we can, with high confidence, kind of link it to climate change in a large-scale sense. What are some of those events, and walk us through the rankings?
Yeah, exactly, Marshall. The events that our committee felt that we have the highest confidence are heat and cold, or really the lack of cold is what it's coming down to. We understand the physics, we have good long-term records, and our computer models are really pretty good at those. So the 3-legged stool, 3 good legs.
Right.
When we come down, almost as good, not quite as good, is extreme rainfall events and droughts.
Right.
Droughts, as many people know, actually have a big temperature component.
Sure.
I talked about that. The rainfall, we understand a warmer atmosphere in general is capable of producing more intense rainfall, and in general we see that happening. We understand the physics, so pretty good on that. Then we start getting into the middle part, and it's some and some.
Yeah.
Hurricanes, kind of some and some.
Yeah.
We understand some of the physics pretty well, but the climate models really don't have the storms in them, and our observational record, especially when you start looking at things like how intense they were, how big they were, the observations just really aren't all that good.
It's pretty limited to the satellite record.
And then, exactly, and then when you get all the way down to tornadoes and hailstorms and even regular low pressure systems, it's really tough to say a lot about them. So you can kind of think of heat waves, highest, droughts and floods, not bad, hurricanes, yeah, and then we get down to the small scale events.
And don't miss what we're saying, because this is where the science is now. If we did this assessment in a couple of years, some of those, as we learn more, some of our understanding and confidence may come up in some of those areas.
Well, exactly, Marshall. That's a super point. And when we were talking about this to the public and even to the White House and to the Senate, we have a graph in our report that shows kind of where these are.
Yeah.
And it's really understanding and capabilities. And if you want to increase understanding, that's where the research opportunities are. Similarly with capabilities, whether we have better models, whether we have more innovative ways to get observations. And it's also really important when I talk about this, I'm talking about attributing a specific event to climate change, because we understand in general what is going on. The National Climate Assessment, the IPCC, there's many, many things that have been written on this.
Right.
We're talking about specific events.
In this last 30 seconds or so, 45 maybe, what the person out there saying, well, we've always had extreme events a million years ago. I mean, how do you know? I mean, what would you say to that quickly? And we can pick up more after the break, too.
Sure. Just because we've had them before doesn't mean that the future is going to be like the past.
What is your saying? We live in...
We plan for climate, but we live in weather. And we're going to be living in a very different weather than we've had before.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on some of that, but when we come back after the break, we're going to kind of talk about what are some of the next steps and what can we learn from this report that can take us into the future, that different future we just talked about, next on Weather Geeks.
Love drama? Don't be a yes man.
It is a very smart plan. So we're all on board?
No, this is a stupid plan.
Hate drama? Go to Cars.com. Research, price, find. Only Cars.com helps you get the right car without all the drama.
When the doctor doesn't look you in the eye, you know it's not good. When I went out, I had to put on a wig, I had no hair. But when I got home, I got to take everything off and just be me. 2 days before Christmas, I found out I was cancer-free. We live carefree where we're happy, and that's home.
Whatever home means to you, we'll help you find it. Zillow.
How to unplumber a butt. Step 1. Find a butt. Step 2. Check for cracks. Step 3. Remove average shirt. Step 4. Replace it with a Duluth Longtail tee. The Duluth Trading Longtail T-shirt. 3 extra inches. Plumber's butt fixed. Get one. Only at DuluthTrading.com.
I like spring because spring is the awakening. Springtime, it's kind of a season of renewal. Things start to green up and blossom.
The change in the weather is exciting. I think it's just a beautiful time of the year.
Spring is that season of hope. If you love the weather as much as we do, join us at weloveweather.tv.
Depression is a serious medical condition. I feel like I have to wind myself up to deal with the sadness, the loss of interest, the lack of energy.
Ask your doctor about Prestique, a prescription medicine proven to treat depression. Prestique is thought to work by affecting the levels of 2 chemicals in the brain, serotonin and norepinephrine. Tell your doctor right away if your depression worsens or you have unusual changes in mood, behavior, or thoughts of suicide. Antidepressants can increase suicidal thoughts and behaviors in children, teens, and young adults. Prestique is not approved for children under 18. Do not take Prestique with MAOIs. Taking Prestique with NSAID pain relievers, aspirin, or blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all your medications, including those for migraine, to avoid a potentially life-threatening condition. Prestique may cause or worsen high blood pressure, or cause visual and other eye problems. Tell your doctor if you have heart disease, or before you reduce or stop taking Prestique. Side effects may include nausea, dizziness, and sweating.
For me, Prestique is a key in helping me treat my depression.
Click or call.
7 days a week. AMHQ is right here and weather ready.
Let me get you ready for the day weather-wise.
AMHQ, every morning starting at 5 on the Weather Channel.
It's amazing out there means to me the wonder and the wow of weather.
Everything is amazing.
It means looking up and being inspired, even if it's just straight up blue skies. I mean, how beautiful is that? That little burst of red that happens when the sun comes right over the ocean.
Watching lightning streaking across the sky.
And the roll of the thunder, it's just one of the most amazing things.
Every single day is going to be something spectacular. It is truly amazing out there.
Currently in our area, 78 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Today, scattered showers or thunderstorms. High 81. Chance of rain 50%. Tonight, thunderstorms early, low 60. Chance of rain, 60%. Monday, partly cloudy and windy, high 66. Here's our 7-day outlook.
And we're back on Weather Geeks. And look, whenever there's a big extreme event, you always hear from the media or from stakeholders, was that event caused by climate change? Is that the right question? And what did the report say?
Well, Marshall, it's a great question because we all hear it. And I think you and I are of the same mind here is I wish we could make that question go away.
This is officially going away today.
Since we're on Weather Geeks, we can talk in a geek fashion. It is an ill-posed question.
That it is.
What that means for normal people is science really can't answer it. A much better question, which our report talks about, or better questions are, is that frequency going to change? Is it more or is it less? Is the intensity more or is it less? Those are questions that science can answer. And it also brings up some other really great points that we talked about in our report, some cautions, if you will.
What were some of those?
Some cautions would be that as anybody is doing these attribution studies, it's important they lay out the assumptions. It's important they lay out the framing. It's important they talk about the uncertainties because there's uncertainties in all of these. And it's sort of like truth in advertising. You just want to be able to lay that out. So we actually talk in our report about maybe there should be some standards. This is a super new field. 10, 15 years old at the most. So it's kind of being, I don't want to say the Wild West, but people are experimenting. And now is a good time to lay out some standards. Also, you know, people work on things that are interesting, right? So, but just because it's interesting, they may not be a representative sample. So we have to be very cautious in stating general conclusions about the climate from these specific events.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, can we learn from this from the standpoint of future predictive, Earth system predicting extremes in the short-term climate? Is that where we're going?
Well, I think so, Marshall. I mean, that was one, in fact, it's the last recommendation in our report there is sort of this envisioned end state all the way from days to weeks to seasons. Could we actually predict, at least in a probabilistic sense, the extremes? Could we predict, you know, number of heat waves, number of severe flooding events or severe rainfall events, and then we verify them. And it's a way to kind of, again, bring that future into the present, show people how these extremes are changing, very useful for anyone managing risk as well.
Now, what about this rapid attribution? You've got some groups out there that as soon as an event happens, they're trying to rapidly attribute it to climate change. Is that good or bad, or did the report say anything about that?
Well, we talked a little bit about that, and I think as long as, again, the assumptions are stated, the uncertainties are stated, that we don't overstate what we can do, I think those are okay. Heat, we kind of understand the science. You know, maybe some other things, though, you can't do that. So maybe we can learn from some other fields, like economics. You look at the gross domestic product, you get an initial answer, you get a main answer, then you get a revised answer. Maybe that's something that we would want to consider.
Now, why do we do this? I mean, I know you're the Center for Risk. I mean, what's the value of so what factor in attribution for the public, for the policymaker?
So I think there are two things. One, it's for us, it's a really interesting science question, but if you're not a scientist, you know, so why? I think really it's that understanding of how risk is changing. Risk at its most basic is probability times an impact. And that's what we're looking at with these extreme events. We're looking to see how they change.
All right, so in this last 30 seconds, what do you want to say?
So, Marshall, I just one, thank you for having me, and really for both having me and for being such a great committee member. I'd like to give you a coin. These are like challenge coins, but it's for my Center for Solutions to Weather and Climate Risk. And it is really showing finance operations and a changing Arctic there. It's 5 aces because we put another ace in the deck.
That's amazing, and thank you so much. Now, Admiral Tintley often has this statement that the ice doesn't care whether you're a liberal or conservative, it just melts.
It just melts.
We've got to end it right there. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so
as
much,
always,
Marshall.
we're here every Sunday at noon on Weather Geeks. You can also find us on Twitter at WXGeeks, TWC, and we're on Facebook as well. See you next week on Weather Geeks.
program brought to you by Brother.
Inside every business, the right information doesn't always get into the right hands.
Johnson makes how much? Son of a Betty! You know how much Johnson makes?
Let Brother customize an office solution that ensures your confidential information stays that way. We'll equip you with authorized access for paper and digital documents, putting peace of mind at your side.
Betty!
See me.
See me.
Don't stare at me.
See me.
See me.
See me to know
That psoriasis is just something that I have.
I'm not contagious.
See me to know that I won't stop
until I find what works.
Discover Cosentyx, a different kind of medicine for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, proven to help the majority of people find clear or almost clear skin. 8 out of 10 people saw 75% skin clearance at 3 months, while the majority saw 90% clearance. Do not use if you are allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, you should be tested for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you have received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
See me.
See me.
See me on my way.
Find clear skin and a clearer path forward. For a different kind of medicine, ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
A lot went into perfecting new Quaker breakfast flats. We gathered, measured, mixed, and tasted. Because a lot goes into Quaker breakfast flats. Tart cranberries, crunchy almonds, sweet bananas, toasted pecans, golden raisins, baked in with our wholesome oats. Help satisfy your morning hunger with every single bite. Introducing our newest creation, Quaker breakfast flats.
What you doing?
Just prepping for my boss's party in a couple weeks.
What are those?
Crest white strips. They whiten way better than paste.
Crest 3D White Strips whiten 25 times better than a leading whitening toothpaste.
I'd say someone's making quite an impression.
Crest 3D White Strips, the way to whiten.
This is Henry. Expertise. Staining carpet. It is his life's work. He is relentless. He is resourceful. But the Home Depot has Life Proof, the next generation of carpet, with stain-resistant technology built in to help keep tough stains out. Checkmate, Henry. Save up to $500 on your total project, including carpet pad and installation. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
Americans, 83% try to eat healthy, yet up to 90% fall short in getting key nutrients from food alone. Let's do more. Add one-a-day women's gummies, complete with key nutrients we may need, plus it supports bone health with calcium and vitamin D. One-a-day VitaCraves gummies.
A little rain, a little shine, a little change over time. And the birds will sing, 'cause the weather will bring happiness to the hearts of the lonely. Will change our minds when the weather is fine.
Come on down to Weather Underground, weeknights at 6 on the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 78 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Today, scattered showers or thunderstorms. High 81. Chance of rain 50%. Tonight, thunderstorms early. Low 60. Chance of rain 60%. Monday, partly cloudy and windy. High 66. Here's our 7-day outlook.
A good meteorologist friend gave me the nickname Dew Point Diva, which is my favorite weather piece of data. But I love dew points, and I try to spread the love about how useful they are, because that's the actual measure of moisture in the air. And if you start to look at the dew point every day and you realize when the dew point is in the 60s and 70s, it's sticky and humid. And when the dew point is in the 20s and teens, it's so dry you can't drink enough water and you can't put on enough chapstick. Then you realize how important that dew point is.
Every day you get to accept things as they are or take responsibility for changing them.
The people of Flint, Michigan, it's like we don't matter.
It's such a real issue that's right in front of us.
Climate, environment, science, technology. Let's have a conversation. And together, we can solve these things.
23.5 degrees, premiering Tuesday at 11 on the Weather Channel.
Imagine this is your hometown. 330 miles north of the Arctic Circle. It's a place where below and zero go hand in hand, and where one false step could be your last. Still, there are over 4,000 people that call this home. Why do they do it? How do they cope? Just imagine what it's like living on top of the world. I'm meteorologist Jim Cantore. I've made a career of being in the middle of storms, and I love it. But there's more to weather than storms. Some people live where they have to deal with harsh or unusual conditions on a daily basis. On Cantore Stories, we'll take you to these places. You'll meet the people that call them home, and we'll immerse you in their culture.
Welcome to Barrow, Alaska. I'm meteorologist Jim Cantore. It's called the top of the world, and for good reason. Barrow is the northernmost community in North America. Believe it or not, I am standing on the beach, and there is ice as far as the eye can see. So just imagine how harsh life can be.
Barrow is basically a desert that sits on the Arctic Ocean over 300 miles north of the Arctic Circle. There are no neighboring towns, and get this, it's closer to Siberia than the lower 48. It's so remote, you can't even get here by car. So you get the picture. Icy Arctic Ocean, miles and miles of frozen tundra. Barrow is brutally cold. In fact, the average annual temperature is 10.4 degrees. And for about 4 straight months, basically December through March, the daily highs are below zero. That's when you better have your car plugged in, or it will literally freeze. Imagine seeing snow in July. Not out of the question, since snow is possible any month of the year in Barrow.
About 4,500 people call this place home. 60% are Inupiat Eskimos, who are the natives here. Regardless of where you're from, though, if you don't learn to adapt to the weather, you won't make it here.
You can stop the tune, but don't stop the beat. It's showtime.
Pat Manning is a third-generation lineman and has worked on and off in Barrow since 1979. Denny Franz is a construction worker who's lived his whole life in Barrow.
And a hearty good morning. Welcome to Barrow, Alaska, at the top of the world. We're at 17 degrees below zero this morning. Some light snow. We have a wind chill this morning at 34 below. Good morning across the Great North Slope.
It's showtime.
Working up here is, it can be pretty dangerous if you don't dress right. And our job is to maintain power to the whole village.
Well, today at work we're slurring some pilings. First we're making a pad for the new hospital that's going in here in Barrow. It's not too cold. Don't know how much it is today, 20 below.
Below. Not uncommon on winter days in Barrow, when life can be one long, cold, lonely road. Isolation? You bet. Satellites become your best friend and are the only things that keep you connected to the rest of the world.
There's no malls, there's no theaters, there's no sorts of entertainment, there's no cafe shop where you can just go and talk with your friends.
Usually a 2 or 3 day delivery is going to be a week and a half or more. The distance is too large. Without a road system, we are an island unto ourselves.
And when the Arctic freeze is over, this is an island with no access by boat. Thankfully, there are 2 incoming flights a day that bring supplies. That, however, comes with a cost.
$5 or more for a loaf of bread, and almost $10 for a gallon of milk. Those things kind of a little bit of a shock.
It's showtime.
Yeah, when we get out in the whiteout, Pat's beard just pretty much turns into a big old chunk of ice.
You don't really wipe it off. It gets frozen on there and you end up pulling hairs out.
Are those his special snow boots there?
Those are his high-speed foreman shoes.
My wife made me some iced tea. Because I'll have to wait